The essay on doing nothing by J.B. Priestley is the experience of the writer himself who goes on a moorland to spend an afternoon with his friend lying lazily on the grass field. He believes that on doing nothing is the simplest and the best way to pass time, because in this time you don't think anything negative and neither you have any plans for the future. The time of leisure, he says, should be spent in such a way that it gives you no tension and relaxes your mind as well. Dealing with the text, if you see the first paragraph of the essay, which tells us about the setting of the prose. J.B. Priestley with his friend travels to outer skirts of the city, where he climbs up a cliff in order to find a green space, a green moorland space, where he and his friend can lie back on the grass and can look up at the sky, noticing and studying the various colors of nature. Let's see the lines. I had been staying with a friend of mine, an artist and a delightful lazy fellow, at his cottage among the Yorkshire fells, some 10 miles from a railway station. And as we had been fortunate enough to encounter a sudden spell of really warm weather, so here he is telling about the setting, that his planning of spending his holiday with a friend has turned out into a golden opportunity, because the atmosphere and the climate is supporting their holiday, and it has become a really warm, cozy weather of their city, because the western cities are very cold. So whenever the sun comes, they enjoy and celebrate that day as a warm day. So also our writer and his friend goes on a journey, on a travel to enjoy the weather. They climbed leisurely. So they climbed very leisurely, very slowly, until we had reached somewhere about 2,000 feet above the sea level, and had then spent long golden afternoons lying flat on our backs, doing nothing. So the main theme of the essay is visible in its every paragraph, and we get to know that he and his friend goes to spend their days, their afternoons on a hill, but they have not planned that they will have any picnic sort of thing. Rather, they have planned that they will lie down on the grass. There is no better lounging place than a moor. Moor is a small grass which gives the velvet experience. So the writer says it is the best place to rest upon. It is a kind of clean, bare antechamber to heaven. And he even says that this moorland is a chamber, is a place which can be an antechamber to heaven. That means before entering to heaven, there is a small chamber where you can have the pleasures of heaven in a very easy and accessible way. Beneath its apparent monotony that offers no immediate excitements, no absorbing drama of sound and color, there is a subtle variety in its slowly changing patterns of cloud. Now, there is no mobile, there is no gadget to give them pleasure. Rather, for the pleasure, they are dependent upon the natural beauty and the natural scene that is appearing on the sky, because they are lying on their backs, and what is visible from the back, they are able to see the sky. So the sky, if you watch for a long time, you will see that the patterns of the cloud and the color of the sky keeps on changing. But this change appears in a long time. There is no frequent change like it happens on the television. But it is a natural television which changes its color and pattern in long span of time. And shadow and tinted horizons, sufficient to keep up a flicker of interest in the mind all day. So this change of pattern and color is so interesting that it can keep you engaged for the full day, and you may feel well entertained like you feel watching television. With its velvety patches no bigger than a drawing room carpet or fine moorland grass, its surfaces invite repose. So the grass is the best velvet experience, and it gives you time to rest, a natural resting posture. Its remoteness, its permanence, its old and sprawling indifference to man and his concerns. Rest and cleanse the mind. This secluded place, writer is saying, this secluded place gives a sort of leisure, it gives a sort of peace which is not possible between the hustle and bustle of the city. This rest gives peace of mind, not only peace of mind, but it refreshes the mind. All the noises of the world are drowned in the one monotonous cry of the curlew. Now what all the natural presence like the sky, the wind, the birds, everything is there. And what is not there? Population. Population is not there, people are not there, there is no vehicle, there is no traffic noise. So what is there? Only serene beauty and noise of the birds chirping. Day after day then found us full stretched upon the moor, looking up at the sky or gazing dreamily at the distant horizon. Now this routine the writer continued for several days. So day after day, every day he and his friend used to climb the cliff and spend time on this cliff lying back on their backs. So every day they keep on looking at the sky, studying the sky and trying to realize the horizon, the place where the sky and the earth meet. It is not strictly true, of course, to say that we did absolutely nothing. For we smoked great quantities of tobacco, ate sandwiches and little sticks of chocolate, drank from the cold bubbling streams, and spring up from nowhere, gurgle for a few score yards, they disappear again. So the writer is telling that what small activities they did on this hill. They ate some sandwiches, they drank tobacco, and they drank fresh water of a stream, which is very important, that they drank fresh water of a stream that is there on that hill. But they don't know from where it is coming and from where they are getting disappeared. So the water is really fresh and heavenly because they don't know from where it is getting disappeared. They cannot see the end. Occasionally, we exchange a remark or two, or full day they didn't discuss any topic, they didn't discuss any politics, they didn't discuss society. What did they do? They exchange only one or two remarks. Okay? But we probably came as close to doing nothing as it is possible for two members of our race. It is not possible for adolescents to remain quiet because they have so many topics to discuss about the family, about the professional life and various other engagements. But they still remained silent. We made nothing, not even any plans. Since they are in business, they have some profession, but they didn't even tell their profession. They didn't discuss any future plan. Did a single idea entered our head, we did not even indulge in that genial boasting which is the usual pastime of two friendly males in conference. Now J.B. Priestley is telling us a common factor, a common nature, that it is the habit of people that they keep boasting, they keep encouraging the other friend if they don't have anything to discuss. But J.B. Priestley said that he didn't even try to discuss or make his friend feel confident and to do something in future. Somewhere far away, our friends and relatives were humming and bustling, shaping and contriving, planning, disputing, getting, spending. So what the other world is doing, other relatives, other family friends are doing, they must be busy in their daily life. They must be planning, they must be earning money, they must be spending money on various items. But J.B. Priestley and his friend have made themselves disappear from the worldly seat, and now they are enjoying their time in the loneliness. But we were as gods. Now J.B. Priestley, very important line, he is comparing himself and his friend as God. Why God? Because God is believed to create thoughts. He is believed to preserve nature and humanity. But he is not conspiring, he is not busy in earning money, so he doesn't have complexity in his life. That same thing, J.B. Priestley is trying to envelop himself with, that he doesn't want to engage himself with any complexities of life. Therefore, he is comparing himself with God. Solidly occupied in doing nothing, our minds immaculate vacancies. Perfect, immaculate, perfect vacancy. There is nothing. It's really hard to remain silent. It's really hard to make your thoughts stop. Every time we are keep on thinking something or the other. So it is a type of meditation when you stop thinking, when you stop your thinking process. That same thing J.B. Priestley is trying to say and appeal, that one should stop thinking in order to give rest to mind. All the evil in this world is brought about by persons who are always up and doing. Very important statement of J.B. Priestley. He says that all the evils, all the mishappenings, all the war, all the negativity comes in the world because we are overdoing, because we are trying to put blame on others. We are always trying to put others in complexities, but do not know when they ought to be up nor what they ought to be doing. But we don't know why we are doing and what will be the consequences. The devil, I take it, is still the busiest creature in the universe, and I can quite imagine him denouncing laziness and becoming angry at the smallest waste of time. So, J.B. Priestley believes that everyone who is busy in employing every minute of the day into some business is a kind of biggest devil on this universe. Why? Because doing something, only planning to do something, gives your mind extra exercise, and this will definitely deteriorate your performance. In this kingdom, I will wager nobody is allowed to do nothing, not even for a single afternoon. And finally, he says that in his kingdom, if he becomes the king, in his kingdom, he will make sure that nobody is allowed to do nothing, not even for a single afternoon. So everybody will be given rest in order to create positive atmosphere. The world, we all freely admit, is in a muddle. Muddle is the confusion. But I, for one, do not think that it is laziness that has brought it to such a pass. It is not the active virtues that it lacks, but a passive ones. The whole world will admit that it is the confusion that gives our mind a lot of tension. But I, for one, do not think that it is laziness that has brought it to such a pass. But Priestley believes that laziness is not a crime. It is not the active virtues that it lacks, but the passive one. Laziness doesn't show that you don't have possessiveness to act. Rather, it is not the active virtues that it lacks, but the passive ones. As humans, we are not lazy because we are not doing anything. Rather, we should learn the art of remaining silent and quiet. It is capable of anything but kindness and a little steady thought. There is still plenty of energy in the world. There never were more fussy people about. But most of it is simply misdirected. There is plenty of energy in the world. As many humans are there, so many energies are there. But we don't know how to use our energy in constructive work. If, for example, in July 1914, when there was some capital idling, whether everybody, emperors, kings, archdukes, statesmen, generals, journalists, had been suddenly smitten with an intense desire to do nothing, just to hang about in the sunshine and consume tobacco, then we should all have been much better off than we are now. Now you see, he is talking about 1914, the World War time period, and he is saying that it is the feeling of comparison, was the feeling of war, it was a feeling of competition that made countries fight. It was a feeling of revenge that made everybody fight. But He suggests that if we would have remained quiet, it would have not shown our laziness. Rather, it would have led the humanity in a more positive path. Then we should all have been much better off than we are now, because we would have not faced that war, we should have not faced pandemic after war, so everything would have been much progressive, because war takes us ages back in progression. But no, the doctrine of the strenuous life still went unchallenged. Strenuous life, tiring life. We are in habit of living tiring life. We pressurize ourselves to become tired. There must be no time wasted. We always keep in mind that time should not be wasted. We should keep on doing something. Something must be done. That is the psychology of present era, which J.B. Priestley says should be shattered off, because to do something positive and progressive, we need to remain silent, we need to remain, give refreshment to our mind, which comes with sublime and pleasure, spending pleasure time with nature. And as we know, something was done. Again, suppose our statements, instead of rushing off to Versailles with a bundle of ill-digested ideas, notions, and a great deal of energy to dissipate, had all taken a fortnight off, away from all correspondence and interviews and what not, and had simply lounged about on some hillside or other, apparently doing nothing for the first time in their energetic lives. Then they might have gone to their so-called peace conference and come away again with their reputations still unsoiled and the affairs of the world in good trim. So again, Priestley is saying that what all treaties has been signed, whatever political documents were signed, if they would have been signed after giving refreshment to the brain, then the scenario or the result would have been much different. Even at the present time, if half the politicians in Europe would relinquish the notion that laziness is a crime and go away and do nothing for a little space, we should certainly gain by it. All the artists, all the performers, they take rest, they take refreshment for their brains so that they can perform well. So that same thing Priestley is suggesting to every human mind. The idea that laziness is primary sin, very important line, which we all consider and act in our lives, that the idea that laziness is the primary sin, and the accompanying doctrine of the strenuous life are very prevalent in America. And we cannot escape the fact that America is an amazingly prosperous country. So economically and socially, we consider that America is progressive because the working hours and the working capacity of America is very good. But neither can we escape the fact that society there is in such a condition that all its best contemporary writers are satirists. This is the biggest satire. If we consider some country to be progressive, rich and wealthy, we consider that the citizens of that country must be very happy. But the scenario is different. As the writer Priestley is giving an example of America, we consider America to be a progressive and well developed country. But If you see the literature of America, you will find many writers are satirists. Satire means when you criticize the society, when you criticize the culture in a polite manner. When did satire take place? When the society is not satisfied. Curiously enough, most of the great American writers have not hesitated to praise idleness, and it has often been their faculty for doing nothing and praising themselves for doing it that has been their salvation. Therefore, most of the writers, literary writers in America, suggest to live life with peaceful strategies. One should not give overburden to the brain so that one can enjoy greatest joy and peace. For example, thus Thoreau, without his capacity for idling and doing nothing more than appreciate the Milky Way, would be a cold prig. Priestley is giving example of a writer, a prose writer, Thoreau. He was in the habit of not sitting alone. So he used to keep on walking and keep on appreciating doing positive things in his life. He keeps on appreciating the nature, the Milky Way, and he was proud and thinks about his individuality, about his personality. Whereas another writer, Whitman, he talks about robbed of his habit of lounging round with his hands in his pockets. This writer, Whitman, he was in the habit of loitering here and there with his hand in the pocket. And he used to spend time in innocent means light and foolish things, doing foolish things. He used to spend his time on. Would be merely a large size ass. Ass means fool. So Whitman could have been considered a biggest fool on earth. But any fool can be fussy and rid himself of energy all over the place. So the fool, the person whom we are describing as fool, can have a lot of energy inside him. The fool doesn't mean that he needs to be a lazy. But a man has to have something in him before he can settle down to do nothing. This is a very important and you can say the soul of the essay. From the beginning, we are seeing that J.B. Priestley is trying to advertise laziness, but it is not so. He is saying that a man should learn how to spend laziness, how to spend the time of leisure. That means he should have something good to think about. He must have reserves to draw upon. So he must have some points, he must have some subjects to think upon. Must be able to plunge into strange, slow rivers of dream and reverie. So he should have the art to think and create, dream and create thoughts and positive plans, positive thoughts which he can use to make life better. As you can quote here that nothing is bad or good, but thinking makes it so. So in this world, thinking is very important. What you are as a person and how you develop your life, it all depends upon your thinking process. So must be at heart a poet. Such man who knows how to enjoy leisure time, according to J.B. Priestley, must have a poetic heart. That means imaginary heart. That means a heart which can imagine, a heart which can think, a heart which can create. Wordsworth. Now he is giving example. Wordsworth, to whom we go when most other poets fail us, knew the value of doing nothing. Nobody, you may say, could do it better, and you may discover in his work the best counter of the matter. Wordsworth is known as nature poet. He used to find meaning of life in nature, and that is possible only when he spends time with nature in solitude. So Wordsworth knew how to spend his solitude time in refreshing his mind. He lived long enough to retract most of his youthful opinions. But I do not think that he ever went back on his youthful notion that a man could have no healthier, more spiritualizing employment than idling about and staring at nature. So it was the teaching of Wordsworth that the best time, the best utilization of time we can do by spending our time with nature. And I think that same thing J.B. Priestley is doing by lying on the moorland grass and enjoying the canvas of a sky. It is true that he is very angry in one poem with some gypsies because they had apparently done absolutely nothing from the time he passed them at the beginning of his walk to the time when he passed them again. In one of his work, Wordsworth has shown that when he was on his way to some place, he comes across with gypsies. Gypsies are the Banjaras. So he complains that when he returns back from his journey, he finds that gypsies are doing nothing. So he is a bit found angry and disappointed that why such type of people like gypsies, they spend time without doing anything or creating something new. But this is a racial prejudice, tinged, I suspect, with envy, for though he had not done much, they had done even less. So Priestley says that it is just the occupation of gypsies that they travel from one place to another and perform and enjoy life through art. So it is their habitual daily routine which is a little bit less significant than Wordsworth, because he creates poetries which are widely read and admired, whereas the poetries and songs of gypsies are not widely read and admired. So they are doing their own task in which they are skilled, which could be marked as less significant as the work of the Wordsworth. If he were alive today, I have no doubt he would preach his doctrine more fervently and more frequently than ever. He could tell us that the whole world would be better off if it spent every possible moment it could, these next 10 years, lying flat on its back on a moor, doing nothing, and he would be right. So J.B. Priestley says that he could tell us, the Wordsworth could have tell us that how should we spend our lives in order to become more significant and in order to become more positive. But since Wordsworth is not alive, J.B. Priestley found his own way, and he says, instead of fighting and creating controversies, it is better to remain silent alone with nature, as was even supported by Wordsworth in his works. That's all is there in this essay, and this essay comes as reference to context. So I hope this video with explanation gives you an insight to understand what J.B. Priestley is trying to say by titling the essay On Doing Nothing. Thank you.